Part 1. What if the greatest danger to humanity isn't suffering, but the absence of it? What if the comfortable, secure, risk-free life we all strive for is, in fact, a gilded cage? We have built a world optimized for ease, a world of one-click solutions, of endless entertainment streams, of algorithmic comfort designed to shield us from friction, from challenge, from pain. We chase a state we call happiness, a state defined by the quiet hum of contentment and the absence of struggle. Yet, in the midst of this unprecedented comfort, we feel an unspoken emptiness, a strange, hollow ache of meaninglessness, a quiet sense of apathy and directionlessness that gnaws at the edges of our well-managed lives. We have everything, and yet, something is profoundly missing. Over a century ago, one philosopher saw this danger with terrifying clarity. He didn't fear a tyrant or a catastrophe. He feared a spiritual decay from within, a slow descent into a state of ultimate comfort and ultimate meaninglessness, a state he called the last man. He warned that in our flight from suffering, we might be abandoning our very potential to become something more. He gave us a choice, a life of comfortable nihilism or a life of meaningful struggle. This is his roadmap for overcoming. Part 2. Imagine a world, not of dystopia, but of ultimate comfort. A world where ambition is seen as too much trouble, too burdensome. A world where the sharp edges of individuality have been smoothed away in favor of a gentle, pleasing conformity. This is the world of the last man. He is not a villain. He is far more dangerous than that. He is the embodiment of mediocrity, the final product of a civilization that has chosen safety over greatness. Nietzsche, through his prophet Zarathustra, paints a chilling portrait of this creature. The last man lives in a world that has become small, and he himself maketh everything small. He has lost the capacity to dream, to strive, to risk. He asks, with a vacant expression, "What is love? What is creation? What is longing? What is a star?" And then he blinks. That blink is the death of the human spirit. It is the sign of a passive nihilism so complete that he is no longer even aware of what has been lost. He is an archetypal figure, tired of life, who seeks only comfort and security, and is therefore unable to build or act upon a self-actualized ethos. The last man has, as Zarathustra says, left the regions where it is hard to live, for one needs warmth. This isn't a physical migration, it is a spiritual one. It is the modern flight from any form of adversity. We have come to see suffering not as a catalyst for growth, but as a pathology to be eliminated. We build walls of psychological safety so thick that they suffocate intellectual courage. We seek out echo chambers that provide the warmth of agreement and shield us from the cold friction of opposing ideas. We have forgotten that strength is forged only against resistance, that character is built in the regions where it is hard to live. And in this state of comfortable numbness, the last man makes his most terrifying proclamation. We have invented happiness. This is his ultimate delusion. He has traded profound meaning for shallow pleasure, the arduous climb of self-overcoming for the gentle slope of contentment. He believes he has won the game of life, when in fact he has simply stopped playing. He is, as Nietzsche grimly notes, ineradicable like the ground flea, the sole survivor of humanity, because he who takes no risks can never truly fail, but also can never truly live. This is not some far-off future. This is the silent pandemic of our time. But it is not an accident. The last man is not a bug in our system. He is the intended feature. He is the ultimate triumph of a moral system that has for millennia valued the taming of the human spirit. The slave morality, as Nietzsche called it, born from the weak and the oppressed, sought to restrain the strong by labeling their virtues, pride, ambition, power, as evil. It elevated humility, pity, and obedience as the highest goods, creating a safer, more predictable world. The last man is the perfect citizen of that world, harmless, tamed, and utterly devoid of the will to create. Therefore, the battle against becoming a last man is not merely a personal fight against laziness. It is a profound rebellion against the foundational values that have shaped our civilization. It requires us to question the very definition of good that we have inherited. It was into this world, a world teetering on the brink of choosing the last man, that Zarathustra descended from his mountain solitude. He came not to offer comfort, but to offer a challenge. He came to present a new, higher goal for humanity, an alternative to this spiritual death, a path to becoming something more. That path is the path of the Übermensch. Part 3. To understand the path of the Übermensch, we must first understand the landscape in which it is forged. Nietzsche begins with a diagnosis that is perhaps his most famous and most misunderstood. God is dead. This is not a triumphant cry of atheism. It is a somber, world-shattering cultural observation. For Nietzsche, God represented the entire metaphysical foundation of the West, the belief in an objective, divinely ordered reality that gave us our morality, our meaning, and our purpose. For centuries, this belief was the sun around which our world revolved. But the Enlightenment, the rise of science, and the turn towards reason had, in Nietzsche's view, unchained this earth from its sun. The belief in the Christian God had become, for the thinking person, unbelievable. The consequence of this death is nihilism. If the ultimate source of all value is gone, then all values built upon it collapse. Life is left without inherent meaning, without a pre-written purpose, without an absolute moral compass. We are, as Nietzsche's madman cries, straying as through an infinite nothingness. This is the terrifying abyss that the last man seeks to fill with his trivial comforts and mindless entertainment. But for Nietzsche, this cataclysmic event is also a moment of profound opportunity. The madman asks the vital question: God is dead. Must we ourselves not become gods simply to appear worthy of it? If the old source of value is gone, humanity is now free and burdened with the task of creating its own. This is the call that the Übermensch answers. But what is the engine that drives this creation? Nietzsche calls it the will to power. This is another concept easily corrupted, often mistaken for a brutish desire for political domination, a misinterpretation tragically co-opted by the Nazis. But the will to power, in its essence, is not about power over others, but power over oneself. It is the fundamental, irrational, life-affirming force that exists in all things. The drive to grow, to expand, to overcome resistance, to express one's strength, and to achieve self-mastery. The scientist channels this will into a pursuit of truth. The artist channels it into creation. The athlete channels it into overcoming physical limits. The Übermensch channels it into the highest form of creativity, the creation of new values and the sculpting of one's own life into a work of art. The will to power is the antidote to the passivity of the last man. It is the inner fire that compels one to strive, to struggle, and to become. So the stage is set. A world without God, an abyss of nihilism, and an inner drive, the will to power, that pushes us to create. But how does one navigate this path? How does the spirit transform itself from a follower of old values to a creator of new ones? Nietzsche provides a stunningly beautiful and profound roadmap in the form of an allegory: the three metamorphoses. First, the spirit must become a camel. The camel is the load-bearing spirit, defined by its reverence and its strength to carry the heaviest burdens. It kneels down and asks, "What is heavy?" It willingly takes upon itself the weight of tradition, duty, and the established morality of its culture. This is the stage of discipline, of learning the rules, of humbling oneself, and of enduring hardship. It is a necessary foundation of strength and knowledge, One must first carry the values of others to understand their weight and their nature. But in the loneliest wilderness, a transformation occurs. The spirit becomes a lion. The lion is the great destroyer, the sacred no-sayer. Its task is to confront the great dragon named Thou Shalt, the embodiment of all established thousand-year-old values that glitter with the gold of authority. The dragon declares, "All values have already been created. Verily, there shall be no I will anymore." The lion's spirit roars back, "I will." The lion does not yet create new values. That is beyond its power. Its purpose is to create freedom for new creation. It shatters the old law tables, clearing the ground of the rubble of inherited dogma. This is the stage of critical rebellion, of breaking free from the herd, of achieving spiritual independence. Yet the journey is not complete. The preying lion, a creature of pure negation and rebellion, must undergo a final metamorphosis. The lion must become a child. Why a child? Because, as Zarathustra says, innocence is the child, and forgetfulness a new beginning, a game, a self-rolling wheel, a first movement, a holy yea. The child is the true creator. Having forgotten the burdens of the camel and moved past the reactive anger of the lion, the child can play the game of creating with a pure, life-affirming joy. It says a sacred yes to life and to its own will. It creates its own world, its own values, not in reaction to the old, but out of a pure, innocent, forward-looking creativity. This three-part journey is the essence of self-overcoming. However, it is a mistake to see this as a simple, one-time graduation. The path of the striving individual is a continuous, cyclical process. Any new value system, once created and established, risks becoming its own form of dogma, a new thou shalt. The spirit that has become a child must eventually become a camel again, shouldering the weight of its own creations to test their strength and live by their discipline. And when those values become too rigid, too life-denying, it must once again summon the lion to destroy them, to create new freedom, so that the child may be born again to create anew. The path to the Übermensch is not a destination. It is a perpetual, dynamic process of becoming. It is the constant, courageous act of giving birth to oneself over and over again. Part 4. Nietzsche's philosophy is not an abstract intellectual exercise. It is a hammer, meant to be used to shape our own lives. The three metamorphoses are not just a story. They are a mirror reflecting our own potential journey. Look around and look within. Most of us begin and end our lives as camels. We are born into a world of pre-existing values and expectations. We kneel and ask, "What is heavy?" And society is eager to load us up. Thou shalt get good grades. Thou shalt go to a good college. Thou shalt get a safe, respectable job. Thou shalt marry, buy a house, and have children. Thou shalt present a successful, happy image on social media. We bear the weight of this herd morality, which values conformity, security, and obedience above all else. We become dutiful beasts of burden, carrying a load we never chose, often mistaking the weight for purpose. The first step on the path of self-overcoming is to recognize the camel in the mirror and to ask a new question. Are these burdens truly mine? The lion's roar is the moment of radical authenticity that follows this question. It is the courage to critically examine every thou shalt you carry. This is not mere teenage rebellion. It is a profound act of intellectual and spiritual honesty. It is the entrepreneur who, after years on the safe corporate ladder, confronts the gnawing emptiness and takes the terrifying leap to build something of her own, something that is a true expression of her will. It is the artist who rejects popular trends and commercial pressures to create work that is difficult, challenging, and deeply personal, even if it means facing obscurity. It is the individual who steps outside the comforting walls of traditional religion or political ideology to forge their own ethical code, piece by painful piece, based on their own reason and experience. The lion's roar is the declaration, My life is my own, and I will not live by a script written by others. This act of destruction, of saying no, creates the most precious commodity, freedom. But freedom from old values is not the same as having new ones. A life of pure negation is empty. After the lion destroys, the child must create. This is the most difficult and most important stage. It is the move from freedom from to freedom for. It is the act of establishing your own table of values. What does this look like in the modern world? It means consciously deciding what you will hold as the highest good. Perhaps you decide that for you, personal growth is more valuable than financial security. That courage is a higher virtue than comfort. That creating something beautiful is more important than consuming something entertaining. This is not about choosing selfishness over altruism. It is about choosing your own reasons for your actions. Your compassion becomes your own, not a command from a creed. Your discipline becomes your own, not a fear of punishment. You become, as Nietzsche urged, the poet of your own life. No one has ever been a perfect Übermensch. It remains an ideal, a direction, not a destination. But we can see its spirit in the great creators of history, figures like Goethe or Leonardo da Vinci, whom Nietzsche admired not as flawless beings, but as individuals who possessed a powerful, self-defining, and life-affirming spirit. They were not content to merely exist. They sought to create, to shape, to overcome. The modern call to be your authentic self often taps into this desire, but it frequently misunderstands the assignment. Popular authenticity often encourages you to simply express who you already are, to validate your current feelings and identity. This is, at best, the beginning of the lion stage, a rejection of external pressures. But it often stalls there, mistaking rebellion for the final goal. True Nietzschean authenticity is not about finding yourself. It is about creating yourself. It is a forward-looking, constructive project. It demands that you overcome what you are today to become who you could be tomorrow. The choice is a stark one. It is the difference between two fundamentally different ways of being in the world. Part 5. How, then, do we live? How do we walk this rope across the abyss, with the last man behind us and the Übermensch as a distant star before us? Nietzsche does not leave us with a set of commandments. Instead, he offers a new perspective, a new mental framework for life itself. It is captured in two of his most profound and empowering ideas, amor fati and the eternal recurrence. Amor fati is Latin for love of one's fate. This is not a passive resignation to whatever happens. It is an active, passionate, joyful embrace of everything that constitutes your life. The triumphs and the tragedies, the strengths and the flaws, the joy and the suffering. Nietzsche writes, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati," that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, but love it. It is the mindset of the master artist who sees every element of their material, even the imperfections and the resistance, as essential to the final creation. It is to look at the totality of your existence and affirm it without reservation. This powerful affirmation is put to the ultimate test by his thought experiment of the eternal recurrence. Imagine, Nietzsche says, that a demon were to steal into your loneliest loneliness and tell you, this life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more, and there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy must return to you. Would you throw yourself down and curse the demon, or would you answer, "You are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine"? Your honest answer to that question is the ultimate measure of your life. This idea places the greatest weight on every single action, every single moment. If you knew you had to relive this choice, this conversation, this moment of cowardice or courage for all eternity, would you still act as you are acting now? This is not a literal theory of the cosmos. It is a psychological tool of immense power. It forces you to live with radical responsibility, to become the author of a life you would be willing to endorse forever. It is the mechanism for overcoming regret, what Nietzsche called the will's ill will against time. By affirming the eternal return of the past, you transform the unchangeable "it was" into a "thus I willed it." You are not just accepting the past, you are actively choosing it as a necessary part of the whole you love. This is the ultimate liberation. It frees you from the chains of resentment and allows you to pour your entire will into the present moment, into the game of creation. The call of Nietzsche is not to achieve the state of the Übermensch tomorrow. It is to begin the journey today, to take the first step onto the bridge, to embrace challenges as the fuel for your growth, to question the values you have inherited and have the courage to create your own. To master your will, live with radical authenticity, and love your fate so completely that the thought of reliving your life for all eternity would be the greatest possible joy. Zarathustra said it best: "Man is a rope, tied between beast and Übermensch, a rope over an abyss. What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not an end." Your life is that bridge. The meaning is not in the arrival. The meaning is in the crossing. Build it well.